Hello, it's Chaplain Paul. I'm making this video for my family. Uh, Talk about my father, Paul David VESCIO Sr. I took a bunch of his books. This is he was on the cover of Unico magazine. Unico is a Italian American word that means unity. And your grandfather uh, was expansion director and then worked his way up, I think, to third vice president, second vice president, national vice president. He was either one or two seats away from president. I don't know if they had a first vice president. His title was national vice president, so I don't know if that's uh, one seat away or considered first vice president. I guess it would be because if you're a second vice president, you would be second vice president. So he was national vice president of Unico, so he, probably one seat away. I have a picture that shows him two seats away. But oh, this is one of my favorites. They took taking toys to Salisbury. That's the president of the Italian Center right there, Bruno Giordano. There's your grandfather. They're loading up toys to bring to Salisbury. Salisbury was an institution where kids with Down syndrome were put in cages. It was like a prison, and they lived out their life there as adults, and they would load up, they would bring truckloads of toys and stuff for Christmas, and that's one of my favorite pictures. By the way, okay, there's many pictures of my dad. I don't know if you could see it on here. He's running for mayor. There he is running for mayor. I don't know if you can see it, but there's all kinds of awards, and there he is. He's on the mayor's um, what do you call it, administration. There he is, Bruno Giordano, right there. My dad helped to get him elected first mayor of the city of Stamford, Connecticut, and the way they did it was very interesting. Back then, my dad was, they were Democrat. They were all Democrat. The Italian Center was created so that when people come over here, they could be introduced to society without getting ripped off. So the whole idea was to create the Italian Center. You have members. The members are people in the community. So you have business owners and people that are in, trade business that have a trade. They become members, and then this way, when people from Italy come over here and they can't speak English very well, if you need a plumber, well, you got plumbers that are uh, trusted members. Because if you rip the public off, then you're going to get kicked out of the Italian Center, and then you'll be blackballed. So it was in everybody's interest to treat each other respectfully. And so when people came over, you have an immediate customer base, especially like my Uncle Pete, my dad's older brother, Peter Vescio. He was 25 years older than my dad. My dad was the youngest of six. So you had firstborn was Peter Vescio. Then you had Pauline Vescio. Then you had Anna, which was called Aunt Tanny because the kids couldn't pronounce Anna. Aunt Anna was harder to pronounce, so we called her Aunt Tanny. Then they came to the United States in 1910. Okay, my Uncle Pete was probably 12 years old, and then my Aunt Yolanda was 9, and my Aunt Tanny was 7, and she got lost on Ellis Island for 3 days. Can you imagine? I wrote a book called uh, the Olive Garden. It's on Amazon and it's on my website. The Olive Garden is a it weaves real truth of the stories that I was told with fiction. So it's kind of weaved together, kind of made up from when they were in Italy and they came to the United States. And part of that book that's true is the fact that my Aunt Tanny got lost on Ellis Island for 3 days. 3 days. She was 7 years old. Can you imagine? You come to the United States and you lose your daughter for 3 days on Ellis Island. Well, at least she was on an island, but still, that's pretty unnerving. And then coming over here was brutal. The ships were, it was awful. It probably took like 2 weeks just to get across the Atlantic Ocean, and the conditions were probably horrible. And so then when they settled in Stamford, Connecticut on Cove Road, and right by Cove Island, and then there was a break. There was about a I figure maybe 10 years before they had children again, and then my aunt uh, Yolanda was born in 1915, and then my aunt Gloria was born in 1923, and my dad was born on October 11th, 1925, but he celebrated it on October 12th, 1925 is when he was born. So his 100th birthday is coming up in 2 years. He'll be 100 years old in 2 years, which is amazing. Less than 2 years, he'll be 100 years. 2 years, yeah, yeah, exactly 2 years from now, he'll be 100 years old. Jesus. And so I'll try not to say Kev. Every time I say put $1 in a jar and give it to someone who's homeless or someone in need. So let's start out with $5. There, put $5 in the jar. And they got Sonny running around over there, so that's cool. All right, so here's the deal. So the Italian Center was created late 1800s, early 1900s, and it was basically a house. Back east, the houses are like 3 stories high. So they would have a house, and they would have meetings in there and do things. And then the second building, I believe, my uncle Pete donated the land for the second building, and I actually went to camp there. They had a summer camp. The third building that's on Newfield Avenue right now, that building is still there. Nixon came, President Nixon came to uh, to dedicate the building on Columbus Day, 1970. Came to dedicate the building. What happened was there was three White House helicopters that came out of Bridgeport Airport, and a big White House press helicopter that landed too close to the people. There was like 10,000 people there. And my father, you could go on my YouTube channel, and you could see a Nixon's visit. What I did was I'll explain that story another time. The way that I got a hold of that footage is absolutely extraordinary. I'll have to make a video about that. But thing is that so what I did was I put it on the TV, and then I filmed it. I filmed it with this camera. So you can't really see my dad too good, but anybody that wants to copy of that could get a copy. So uh so what happened? Okay, so this is what happened. I get the Bruno Giordano elected mayor of Stanford. What happened was they you have a really good base, okay, of support, right? Because you've been serving in the Italian Center, you've been volunteering, you've been doing all this stuff for the community, so they know you already. They know you're a good person. So if you're going to run for, it was the perfect vehicle to springboard political careers for Italian Americans. That's how they set it up. Okay, one of the things that they used it for. All right, because you have an immediate base of support, just like you had an immediate customer base. You go into the Italian Center, you're an attorney, you're a good attorney, and now you got a customer base. They're going to come to you. Why? Because you speak Italian, you're in the Italian Center, and you have people that are vouching for you, saying you could be trusted. And so that's how you get an immediate customer base. It's not really like today, where everybody goes in the Italian Center and they don't even know each other. They're not even Italian. It's not like that. It was a very tight knit community of people in Stanford. My dad was a leader, and so was my uncle Pete was a leader of that community. My uncle Pete cornered the market for real estate. He cornered the market for Italian Americans in Stanford, the real estate market. Here's how he did. He started a real estate company called Stanford Realty, and he also owned a newspaper called La Tribuna, which came out biweekly. And it was, and I have that. I have it all on USB. You could go on La Tribuna. What is it? La, Tri, La Tribuna Christian Publishing 193. That's the web. Or you could go on Miracles of Kingman, 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 miraclesofkingman.com. And right on the homepage, you'll see a link to the to La Tribuna Christian Publishing 193. You go on there and you could go to the page and see the videos I'm talking about. You could go on the family page and see stories and stuff. So there's a lot of family history on that website. You can see the things that I'm doing in politics on that website, and all the press releases I put out and all the other activities I'm involved with. So anyway, so here's what happened. Bruno Giordano was the president of the Italian Center, so they figured they're going to run him for mayor, and hopefully he'll be the first mayor of Stamford. So my dad was Democrat, so they made a deal with him. They said if he were to run as an independent and act disgruntled with the Democratic Party, it would split the Republican vote, and then it would uh, assure Bruno Giordano would be the first Italian American mayor. So my dad agreed to do that. They made a deal that they were going to make him police commissioner. They were going to make him police commissioner for doing this. And I have the newspaper clippings here where he's, putting down the Democratic Party, saying they're all a bunch of puppets. And because they're asking him, the news is asking him, say, why are you running as an independent? He said, well, they're all a bunch of puppets and everything. This was their plan. Why? Because here's why. You have the Democrat. He's the Bruno Giordano. So you already have the Democrats are going to vote for Bruno Giordano. What does my dad as an independent do? My dad as an independent pulls the Republicans, splits their vote because they may not like the Republican candidate, and they like my dad as an alternative. So it splits the Republican vote. It weakens the Republican vote, strengthens the Democrat vote, and the Democrat. They're still making deals like this today. So they made a deal, and they pulled it off, and Bruno Giordano became the first Italian American mayor of Stamford. And then they reneged. They said, "Well, we can't, Paul. We can't make you mayor. We can't make you a police commissioner because you never served as a police officer." But he was elected. Uh, um, I said, dollar in the tank, dollar in the tank. He was elected. I almost said it. He was elected justice of the peace. He was elected justice of the peace. He sat on the bench, but he never served as a police officer. So he said, "Oh, we'll make you fair rent commissioner." So he was fair rent commissioner. What's that? If you have like you have a fair rent commissioner for each town, maybe like two or three for each town, and they regulate them. They make sure that the landlords don't raise the rents unfairly, and if they do, they can be dragged into court and fined and put in jail. And my mom told me that there was fat cat, you know, landlords calling the house, trying to bribe my dad with brand new cars, money, trips, because they were got in trouble, and they wanted to get him off his back, get them off his back. So they were doing that. My dad had connections. He helped to elect senators, judges, congressmen. Uh, or he helped get his friend Manuel Vetti appointed postmaster of the city of Stamford. There's a lot of amazing stuff. I mean, sat on the board of directors, was treasurer of the board of directors, had his hand in bringing the president of the United States in to dedicate the building, sat right behind the president. If you look on the film, you could see at the podium. I was in the front row with my mom. I was 8 years old. President Nixon got out of the helicopter, walked past everybody, started walking back, shaking hands. He came to me, wanted to shake my hand. I didn't want to. I was 8 years old. I still knew the difference between Democrat and Republican. Okay, whether you realize this or not, the Republicans, they snub their nose at Italians. They still do it today. They'll butcher our name as a way of just dissing us. Okay, they'll act like they're your friends. They'll put a knife in your back if you're not careful. So you have to be very careful. There's good and bad in both parties. Okay, don't get me wrong. But back then, I knew the difference between Democrat and Republican. Republicans were always looking down on for the most part, always looking down on Democrats. Now, my grandparents were Republicans, so not all are bad. Okay, but this is the way it was. Anyway, we're running out of time, and we could talk about my dad some other time. We could add more stuff, but for now, uh, there was a lot of things that he did. I can't even. it's just amazing, all of the accomplishments my dad did. So we thank you, Lord, for this opportunity to talk a little bit my dad, about my father. And we just continue to please pray for our family, bless our family, and watch over us. We give you all the praise, glory, and honor in the name of Yeshua Messiah. Amen.